turn the lights down in here?
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Joyce, but you can call me Jay. Welcome to my channel. I have a mostly lifestyle channel, however, I am also a TV writer and an Alzheimer's caregiver for my mom, and today we're talking about some TV. I also stutter. I like to say that so you guys aren't watching it like, what the fuck is going on over here? So I'm just letting you guys know, but let's get to it. Now, I watched all 30 of Shonda Rhimes' masterclasses, and it's like having the god of TV whisper the do's and don'ts of how to become them into your ear. Like, just like a... It was great. I have a special connection to Shonda because we're both Capricorns, which means she is organized and detailed and all about her business, and these videos are a clear representation of that. She takes the time to teach her process, what helps her personally, even how to pitch a series, as well as the basics of script writing, structure, dialogue, building memorable scenes, and she does all of this by using her own scripts from Grey's Anatomy and Scandal. So if you have access to Masterclass, there are downloadable copies of these scripts so that you can follow along with her. It's very, very detailed. She leaves no stone unturned. I wouldn't consider myself a new writer, so I did know some of what she taught, but here are 10 things that I personally took away from her class. And these are mostly things that you can't just find out in a podcast or a YouTube video. I also have one final tip, so technically I have 11 tips at the end for those of you thinking of becoming show runners as well. So let's get started. Number 1, Shonda covers how to find ideas to write, which is a video in itself, which if you guys want that video, I will make it, let me know. However, once you've exhausted all your ideas or researched, what really stuck with me were the pointers she gave on how to know your idea is worth taking the time to develop into a show. She knows when an idea is real and could be something, when it's like a song that gets stuck in your head, and she'll wait for this song to go away, but when it doesn't, then the scenes start to play out inside of her head and character arc start to develop. Her next step is then pitching these ideas to the people near her. But one thing that she spoke of that's very true for me also is that every script that I've actually written has been something that lingers around in my mind longer than all the other ideas that come and go. Number 2, when you write, let the idea marinate in your brain for a while.
What's funny is I wrote the pilot script for Scandal in 4 days and a year because Judy Smith and I met the year before, and then I basically thought about it for a year, and then I went away and wrote it in 4 days. Mainly because I didn't have any time, but also because I kept trying to figure out how I was going to approach this story. And I wasn't totally sure the best way in or how or when to come into the story at all.
Sometimes you just have to let the story slowly build inside of your head. I know 1 and 2 connect, but they're still separate. Number 3, be strategic. We all know that you don't become as successful as Shonda is by just being a good writer. Not all it takes. Strategy was a huge part of how she got Grey's Anatomy on TV. So when Shonda was trying to sell her show, she learned that the head of Disney at the time needed a surgeon show in the lineup. So she wrote a surgeon show. She's basically saying that working in TV is about serving a space. It's not all about creative intuition and your personal creativity. It is about serving the purpose of what the people in suits who are trying to make money for their company need. I personally believe in writing what you love and of what interests you. Luckily, as Shonda says, surgery was something that she had a lot of interest in, so it ended up being a good match for her. Number 4, create memorable characters. I loved this section because it really made me look at my own scripts and think, could I make my script more interesting by diversifying my characters? And the answer is yes. This section has 3 points that I thought were important takeaways. So point 1 is Shonda suggests to take characters that you've made men and make them women. take half the white characters and cast them as something else. If you're a man and you're writing your idea of a beautiful woman and that ideal is what we already see on the screen 90% of the time, change it up. You know, it's so easy to type people and not make them three-dimensional whole humans. So strive to be different and work against the narrative that has been overused to the point of it becoming cliche. Point 2 is the antagonist on your show, you personally as a writer have to like them. You have to give them good reasons for what they do. Some people don't like Hal on Scandal, but she sees him as a hero, and the choices that he makes are validated by his motives. So you have to look at the story from the character's perspective and see it from a place of compassion. No one is bad, they just have different perspectives. The final one is don't define character by how they look. Shonda now writes character descriptions and makes it about the world of the character and less about what the character physically looks like. She learned this from casting Grays. So let an actor show up and define what a character looks like for you. By the way, if you guys are finding this to be helpful so far, please like this video. It helps with the algorithm, and I'll also know to make more of these. I was thinking of doing Aaron Sorkin next because he's someone that I look up to a whole lot. So if you like the idea of Sorkin, type Sorkin below. All right, number 5 tip, creating an ensemble. Ensemble pieces are some of the most difficult pieces for me to write because, like Shonda says, it's like putting together a band. Everyone should harmonize together. Everyone doesn't have to get along, but the tune that they play should be interesting.
If we think about Scandal, you have Olivia, who is sort of your lead singer, and she works really well. But then you have to have Huck, who's odd but wise, and I always call him her, attack dog, but he's odd but wise. He really does provide all kinds of strange wisdom. You have Abby, who is loyal and quiet and sort of there. Harrison, who's the smart one, who sort of sang everything fast and sort of leaning into everything. Quinn, who's new. You have everybody sort of working in concert with one another so that you can sort of see who they are. And when you put them all together, they form a very nice group of people.
All of these are people that you need in an ensemble so that the audience understand what's going on in the world of the story without having the character say, straight out, I'm sad. Today I didn't get the job I wanted. Boo-hoo. It making each person a part of the world adds depth. Number 6, and maybe my favorite one of all, make sure your characters are happening to things. Your character has to be the one making things happen. This is a pet peeve of mine because I absolutely hate reading people's script where nothing is happening. There may be a scene here and there with a few funny lines or, sarcastic bit in there, but nothing happens. And if your lead is not on a mission to accomplish a goal by the end of your show or your episode, then you're just doing a character exercise. You didn't write a story, you just wrote what was in your head, which is okay and sometimes necessary, but don't call that a script. Having actionable steps that your character takes and then having obstacles that get in the way of them accomplishing their goal is how you begin to develop story. Here's a very quick example. Let's say that you have a main character named Jane, and Jane needs to get to the other side of town for a job interview, but she has no car. So now Jane has a goal, which is getting to her job interview. And her obstacle is that she has no car. Your job is to make it hard for Jane to get to the job interview and then create a story out of that. Now this is very rudimentary storytelling, but this is where and how it all starts. Number 7, edit your script. Cut things that don't affect your plot and don't affect your character development, which usually means you have to cut the smart, silly, funny bits. But if it has nothing to do with the character development or the arc, it has no business being in your story. So she actually calls it cutting your darlings.
If you're telling a story about solving a case, if there's a case involved in your show, you can't cut anything that requires you to solve the case. obviously, or your audience won't understand what's going on. If you're talking about a character arc, if you're talking about, the crown and whether or not she's going to make it through her coronation or something, you can't cut the scenes that are about her fears and her worries and her concerns, because those scenes are the scenes that really resonate. You have to really think about what are the things that are most important. If this wasn't in the show, could the story still be told? Which means that what you end up cutting are your darlings.
It's your witty, funny, fabulously written pieces. However, what she does so that it doesn't hurt so much is that she keeps all of these in a folder, which makes it easier for them to cut it, because she's like, oh, I'll return to them someday, maybe. She says that she has not, but knowing that she can keep these bits and not, just discard them makes it a little bit easier to make sure that her story is succinct and that it flows. And number 8 is, out of the mouth of Shonda, you don't need film school. And Shonda went to USC, one of the best film schools in the country, and she still says this. Financially, if you have to take out a lot of loans for school, she says, don't do it. She says, take the job over school. The purpose of these schools are to pretty much network and build the group of people that you will be working with in the future. But if you can do that on the job, why not learn on the job while getting paid to do it and continue to write at night, So if you don't have to go to school, don't go to school, especially now, because film school is upwards of $150,000. So get the job. Number 9, network with your peers, which is very true. I think Issa Rae says this too. She says to network sideways, not up, which basically means network with people on the same playing field as you. So when you are working on set, or if you're finishing up school, continue working with these same people, because these are the people that in 10 or 15 years will be the presidents of these networks. I think it's going to be more than 10 or 15 years, but that's what she said. Whereas, people who have achieved more in their field are networking with the people who are at their same level. So don't look to work with people who have already achieved the things that you're looking to achieve. Work with the people who are at the same place that you are, so that you guys can also move up together, and that makes it so much sweeter. Number 10, get noticed in the writer's room. This is for those who have assistant jobs and those who are staffed on their first show, but she says the goal is to always get noticed. She also gives a few tips how to get noticed, and they are: be the person who holds the marker and stands at the whiteboard, meaning if they need someone to take notes in that room, be that person. When writing, rooms pick back up, of course. Try to pitch at least one thing a day. Make sure you read the writer's notes that night before. That way, if someone can't remember what happened, you can say, oh yeah, so such and such was blah, 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 blah. That's helpful. Try to always be one step ahead, basically, and be useful. That's the goal. And the one tip that she gave in the very end, she said that she doesn't think show running is fun. But if you want your vision to come across your screen, you better be the show runner, which pretty much entails everything that isn't writing.
They're the person who's responsible for basically keeping the trains running on time, making sure the scripts happen, making sure you're staying sort of on budget as prescribed by the line producer, making sure the actors are as happy as they need to be, working with the crew and the line producing side of the team, talking to the studio and the network, making sure the writer's room is moving forward, making sure that the scripts are creatively what the studio and the network are hopeful for, but also protecting the creative vision. It's a big job.
Basically, if you're lucky enough to have your show picked up and brought to screen, if you want to make sure that it is exactly what you want it to be, you gotta run the show. You should also probably have some experience in a room also, though. That's just me talking. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by subscribing and telling me of any other masterclasses that you'd like a top 10 of. You guys have a beautiful day, and see you on the next upload. And make sure you guys write every day, because we are writers. That is what we do. Shonda says if you don't write every day, you're not a writer. So make sure you do that, okay? All right. Bye, y'all.